session comes up before the agenda. All right, guys, we have this agendas in front of us, so you guys can take lead in whatever direction you want to go.
On these, as we go through, the highlighted ones are the ones that they're most interested on the,
The ones that are highlighted are changes that I made or
Okay.
suggestions that I made or, I think it probably easier if we take these one at a time and we'll start off with Rico. He and I spoke yesterday and there were some items that we removed that he deemed that he could put off for a little while. One of the things we talked about was the emergency pin for Catherine for $500. Thought maybe we could do a fundraiser for that. That was Rico's suggestion. It was a good one. Maybe one of the fundraiser things.
How soon would I need that? As soon as we get it, or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because we've been talking about doing another breakfast, and that would be a perfect time to get that taken care of.
Do you have a schedule? Let's just get it down.
Well, we were going to do the first Saturday of every month, but this Saturday is the 4th of July weekend, so it'll be August.
So, I will try to get a flyer out by the end of today. August, first Saturday in August, we will shoot for a fundraiser for that exact site.
And we'll do one every month.
Yeah.
What is the date of all that?
Mona and I also talked about maybe putting a collection jar, add a couple of businesses around town for it.
What are they going to do with the proceeds from the quilt raffle?
I don't know, I just found out about the other day.
Okay.
Thank you. That way we've got it in black and white and it'll happen.
Okay.
Do better that way.
So that's August 5th. And we're doing another pancake feed on that date. Is that right?
A breakfast feed. We're not
Breakfast.
sure whether it's pancakes or not.
And to make sure that it's
Biscuits.
completely clear, your staff is not required to be there. We would appreciate it if they would like to come and help or what have you, or like the East Newton Coalition, they don't have, I guess it's more like the dog pound money, but Kathy doesn't have to be there, but we would appreciate it if she was there.
I'll be there for sure.
Okay. I don't want the employees to think that we're putting more work on you guys because our budget can't handle something. This is something that we want to do for you guys. Is that correct on
I
council?
can't imagine that the department can't get something out of it that they should complain about trying to help a little bit.
It happens.
It happens.
You would think.
Just making sure I'm crossing.
People do complain, you know,
No.
if you didn't know that.
Never heard such a thing. What time is the feed gonna start?
We had a plan.
Was it 7 last time?
No, it was like 8.
I
8
have
to
to
10, I
look.
believe, is how we had it
I think
set
that
up.
was what it was.
Okay, I just want to put it in my calendars.
I can't recall myself volunteering for anything before 8 ever.
But voluntold is a different story.
Okay.
So we crossed off the radios. Rico said he could put that off for a time that his were working. The cars, he agreed to reduce his new fleet of 2 to 1. And that saved the city about $6,500, $7,000. And we removed guns completely. He said all of his officers currently have their own duty weapon, and they could get by with that. We also budgeted for 4.5 officers instead of 5, so that he could have a permanent part-time employee at $15 an hour instead of a 5th full-time officer.
And that's $15 for how long?
20 hours a week.
But for what duration?
I didn't put an end date on that, just a permanent part-time position.
Okay.
So hopefully that way he might help him to have full coverage
Okay.
in the future.
I just didn't want to leave that open-ended for if they come for a raise and how that would look within that time
I
period.
understand.
Would that be something we can do a contract in, wouldn't you?
That would be the discussion you guys
We've
can have.
we've discussed contracts previously. It's not something we currently do with employees, full-time or part-time, with the exception of your position. But I certainly think it's something that should be a consideration.
Do you guys get that chart finished?
It's not been nailed down.
Mm-mm.
You've been interrupted, haven't you?
So our probationary and our reserve officers make 15. Our new officers after probation make 1587. So possibly after a part-time employee gets off probation, we might consider 1587 an hour. And that would be something we would put in the chart, but certainly wouldn't want them to have to work for 15 an hour forever.
Which is why I asked, since we are working on the budget, if we need to increase that.
I budgeted for 15 an hour. When we get to the end of the general fund total, we may have to have that discussion.
We had discussed it, part-time, we get the doctor,
Right, the free market physician.
Yes,
Mhm.
but not insurance,
Okay.
not the other part-time
Yes.
officers.
Just so we can at least offer some little benefit to
I
the part,
agree.
nobody
Yeah.
with part-time ever gets a benefit like that.
Agreed.
That's
So that puts us with an overall budget for the police department, which is under the general fund. They don't have a lot of their own revenue, at minus 223,000 and some change.
How long will we get the building paid?
Well, you know, if City Hall were to eventually move down there, the other funds could help with the balance that's due. Or, I mean, in effect, purchase half from the police department, since the police department has been paying for that. Court, by Supreme Court rule, we are to have a court clerk here 30 hours a week. We can pay 20% of their income or their wage from other funds if they're doing other tasks for the city for 10 hours a week. Typically, you know, Caitlin took payments, utility payments, that sort of thing. That's how we justified that. But because our general fund is very strapped, I allowed for 20 hours per week for the court clerk. And then if somebody else can take up that slack, we can pay a small portion of their salary from court. At this point, that's the way, it's gonna have to be that way. Sandra is here full-time. She started yesterday, and I think that her writing a receipt for a traffic ticket on occasion when somebody comes in to pay would not be unreasonable. But that's where we are with that. We are out of compliance with Supreme Court guidelines, kind of, if that makes sense. Their overall ending budget is $6,016.80, based on $25,000 a year in fines, and that is determined by fines on tickets, on traffic violations, and/or nuisance abatement, or anything like that.
Is that budgeted from previous years or?
Last year, we had kind of a slow year. It was less than 12,000, I believe. The year before that, I would say that was a close number. There was a lot of transition this current fiscal year, so.
And I apologize, I'm a bit slow at this moment. I told you I've had allergy issues. Back to Rico's for 1 second. On his income, I was under the impression that they receive real estate taxes, do they not?
No.
That's I guess that's it.
They do not. They get a 1/4 cent capital improvement, and then Newton County is gracious enough to share a portion of their public safety tax with us.
Okay. I knew we get public safety tax. Okay, so, and then our public safety tax is sitting at 75.
Mhm.
So it's down from last year, was that 99
It is.
last year?
Yes, and so the previous year, our first year, it came in with a bang. I mean, it seemed like we were really raking in a lot of money from that. So we budgeted for 90,000, thinking it's probably gonna be 120, but we're gonna budget for 90, hoping for the best. It has not hit that, and so 75,000 is right where we're at right now with public safety tax income for this fiscal year. So I added 2% to that and carried it over to this year.
And you said that if they're gracious enough, do we not have a contract or anything that says it's down to you?
We do not have a contract, but that was part of their proposal to pass the tax, was that they were going to help the municipalities out with a portion of their proceeds from that.
And they specified the exact. Okay. I remember I was on the ambulance board and I know that helped them, but.
Mhm.
Before we jump back off of that, can we talk about the shop with the cop amount?
Yes. Yes. So hopefully, I put 4,200 in and 4,200 out. That is all donation, and whatever we bring in, we spend. There has been an occasion where the previous chief turned in any funds that they didn't spend. Children didn't show up, or, he got a donation at the last minute that we weren't able to squeeze in. But as a general rule, what we bring in, we spend, and so those cancel each other out.
Is there a written procedure how to handle those funds? Can we make that happen just to cover everyone's back?
So written procedure concerning how he gets donations?
How he
Or-
spends it and if it comes back, how we
Okay.
document that?
Sure.
The remainder, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to write something up, and
I think
with Rico's help, I
anytime we do
think
that,
we
we
could.
need to have some kind of procedure in place so everybody's aware and the next person's aware.
So that being said, I mean, there are certainly other department heads that handle funds that we might just need a written procedure
Exactly.
for how they handle money and
Yeah,
how
this
they
is
bring
just
it
the
to.
first one that came up.
Right,
It's
Nothing personal, just,
Let
I'm
me
trying to cover
know.
bases.
It's not you, Rico.
And are we expecting a grant? Have we written grants?
And actually Cody Green from RD has encouraged Rico to apply for those grants, that there are monies available to help with the purchase of a police car. In the past, I believe it's been a 20% match, I believe. So, and when you get a grant for the police car, it includes equipment too. So they'll outfit it. I think we ended up paying for the graphics on the most recent one, but that's a small price to pay for a new car.
Because our neighboring city had posted just this week on Facebook that they were selling 2 cars.
Let me hand you on mileage or anything.
No, but you might want to, yeah.
You know Jason, so
Yeah,
he
I'll talk to
probably.
Jason.
Yeah, see, I mean, maybe that's something we can look into.
Yeah.
There's, they posted on Facebook about it, so.
If you were needing 2, one of those might be, sufficient, and we get this other grant too.
And
Yeah, I'll call and check on the pricing.
the
Okay,
police
thanks.
department currently only has $4,000 in their quarter cent sales tax. So purchasing a car outright might not be an option at this point for the police department. We'll have to wait for this fund to grow about 3 months before we can grant match,
Sure.
to be honest. So,
I think you're gonna see an increase this year, hopefully, on sales tax.
I do too.
They've got that new downtown liquor open, the bar, you don't get much off of the restaurants. The indirect revenue with them hitting the gas stations and Casey's.
Well, we still have the black card, so I've been holding on to the budget to bother with that, and we'd all talked about it. There's been gossip about possibly trying to do a auction. So I wasn't sure if we wanted to get rid of the black card. Lon and I talked about it yesterday. I think we have to auction the car. There's a loophole, but I don't think we fall into that loophole to be able to sell it outright, so.
How much,
So maybe,
I was just gonna say, how much do you anticipate, did you blue book it just to see?
Yeah, Blue Book, and now you can't add in that it's a police car, and people are scared of police cars.
Yeah.
But Blue Book in a fair condition was 4,200. In perfect condition, we were like 7,000, but it's not. And we got the problem with the catalytic converter being out.
I wonder if, and I heard somebody say this at some point in time, when you can do like safety goggles and bash the car and then, graffiti, different things like
Yeah.
that. I don't know if you can actually do a fundraiser like that that would hit those kind of numbers.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's.
At the
not-
county fairs, a lot of times they'll sell the tickets for $5, or not tickets, but give you the sledgehammer for $5. But I don't think they're gonna make $4,200.
No, that's why I asked on that. So, if it came close to those numbers somehow, then like,
When's Newton County Fair? Maybe you could do it there, a bigger audience.
It's the weekend after the fourth.
Is it?
but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
pressure on that one, but-
Good.
Is there other items that we could have city auction?
Rico and I spoke about that yesterday. It is, according to state statute, I received an email from the city attorney, and we have to do an auction, or in the alternative, scrap it. Or there was another loophole. We could do a private sale.
But there was a catch to that one.
Yeah, there was.
But we both, just looking, I'm sorry, we don't have the information for you, but we both decided that's probably, we're not gonna fall under that. We're either gonna have to scrap it or.
Same with the dog box. Rico had some old evidence that in lieu of destroying, we might be able to trade in for other equipment and/or auction.
We talked about guns. I'm leery about auctioning guns off. It has been done, but if we auction a gun off and a young child hurts themselves or somebody else with that gun later on, where'd you get the gun? I bought it from the city, we're gonna be an auction. It's just something
Sticky?
yeah, it scares me. Newton County, when they when they give their guns from evidence, they do trade that for other items they can use for the police department. Whether
So
it's
trade it,
vests or,
basically.
yeah. There's a place in Kansas that, they give you crap money for them, but they do trade you straight across. So they'll give you an appraisal on if you have, I don't know how many guns we got again. We lost our last evidence officer again, so we gotta train somebody new on that. But if we have 10 guns, and we can get $100 a piece, there's $1,000 I'll buy a brand new vest for somebody. But there's other stuff in evidence that should be up for destruction. And so if we can do that, then we can throw that in the auction. We've also got the dog box. And that dog box, everyone that I can find that looks similar to it is up close to $1,100. And Catherine's told me she has no use for it, so.
So the right person would be willing to give 500
I
for
would
it
think so,
easily.
yeah.
I wonder if you can have an auction on Marketplace.
I've seen them before.
I'll ask that question.
So maybe even just social media texting or even taking eBay auction. Does that count?
I'll ask.
I think the key is in informing the public and making sure everybody knows that it's available to purchase.
Posting the information and, yeah. Okay, we're at fire. Tim that is a list of Tim's wish list. I reduced the TICs, which is the infrared camera systems, from 5 to 2. Tim was not available to ask. I spoke with Jim about it, and I said, is it possible we do 2 this year and 3 next year? Or we do 2 and East Newton Fire Protection do 3. But I allowed for 2 in our budget. Everything else is in his budget, with the exception of Tim had discussed a $4,000 a year pay increase. And I made that a $2,000 a year pay increase. So $40,000, which is 97 cents an hour. Jamie was going to meet with East Newton Fire Protection District next week, I believe, and discuss their current contract. So hopefully, in light of what our expenses are for the fire department compared to what their contribution is, hopefully they'll agree to increase that a little bit. They've never been unreasonable, so I don't want to imply that they wouldn't. Yeah.
What did we spend is that what you consider contract labor when we pay your firemen to go on call?
Contract labor is just strictly fire calls. And the unfortunate thing about that is we don't know how many fires we're going to have. Some years we pay out $10,000, and this year I think we're at $27,000. So, and that rate per call was increased from 15 to 20, I think. And so that did make a difference, not substantial. I don't want to say that $5 per call is not substantial, but certainly deserved. So I don't see a way around that.
I always have a hard time understanding this. Sales tax for the police department is a 40-cent sales tax, and they
Right.
make 25. The other one makes 34, and both 40-cent sales taxes.
Mhm.
Does the fire just include?
Department of Revenue will allow people who have gone out of business to continue to make sales tax payments on past due. And so what that is fire, the quarter cent sales tax on fire is so much older. Those people are typically, I mean, the police department, the people that are paying sales tax, there's a really good chance that they still owe money, and the police department doesn't have all that's due to them yet. So I had a hard time wrapping my brain around that too, and I actually called DOR. I'm like, wait a minute, they both have a quarter cent, why is one more than the other? But it's just based solely on collection of sales tax revenue.
Okay, well, that makes more sense. It's just, that's a big chunk.
Mhm. Right. It is.
They just like Tim better than you.
That's it, really.
Very clear.
So the fire department ends with a deficit of $87,696. I do have good news. It sounds like that's all bad news. I do have good news. Anybody have any questions about fire?
Are they, sorry, are they going to get the building and carport?
I have that in their budget. However, I put one of these by everybody's desk, and it's our current statement of accounts. If you'll notice, the fire department does currently have $110,000 in their quarter cent capital improvement only sales tax. Their budget is based on a projection of revenue. This is current revenue. We can spend this money. It's going to look like we end in a terrible spot, but we're really not, because it's being alleviated by this money, if that makes sense.
So yes, they are going to get to do their building.
They are. Initially, I took it out, but then I was like, you know, he's got these funds in here. It's going to look bad at the end of our year, but the monies are there.
The last thing I was gonna say is before he orders those AEDs, I'm still working with the Newton County to see if they're going to pass them down. So,
When I said that, I forgot all about it. I found, we've got 3. We thought we had 2, we've actually got 3 AEDs.
And are any of them working?
No.
Okay.
Have you tried one?
According to well, I asked him if I could do that. He said it wouldn't
Volunteers?
work unless you're having a heart attack. So you guys would have to like scare me or something. But Tim thinks all we need to do is get batteries for them. The batteries are fairly expensive because they are, I believe they're CR123s, which are about $7 a battery, and they take 18 per AED. They're expensive to put batteries in. Now you can go online, and that's from buying from Walmart or Lowe's. You can go online and get batteries off of Amazon for probably $2, $3 a piece. I'm not going to guarantee they're going to last 20 years.
I would buy whatever battery is going to work when you need
At
it.
least buy
So
one
what-
set and try 'em on all 3.
I mean,
Which
as much
ones
as
work.
technology is advancing, I would be surprised if they haven't somewhat perfected, you know, less need for those type of batteries.
Well, and
I
there's
don't
another
know.
option. What we had at county was rechargeable 0123s. So about once a month, you just throw them in the charger and bring them back up to life.
Interesting.
And they'll last several years. So, but,
But anyways, before they purchase, just,
sorry.
give me just about another few weeks, because I've got somebody working on it.
Okay. And certainly that would be very helpful to their budget, so.
With the 3, if we can get all 3 of them to work, if I keep 2, I'll keep 1 in the fire department.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. Parks. Joe's not here to defend his budget, but I removed the 8 additional hours from Cliff. I did that that on my own. I haven't talked with Joe. I haven't seen Joe to talk with him about that. The parks budget ended with a deficit of minus $50,000. Even after I removed Cliff's additional 8 hours. The $6,000 for half of a small building with a shower can become from capital outlay, much like the fire department building, their new building. Joe came into my office Monday, and he said, hey, by the way, I hear what your bottom number is for the general fund. I'll nix the shower. I need maintenance for my trailers and my backhoe. Or not his backhoe, his trailers and his truck. And so he provided me bids with sanitation for those repairs. But as far as parks is concerned, I feel like they do have a need for a place to sit down and a place to wash off. I just think that's reasonable to expect that. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they have the funds to do it. And he has money in ballpark. He has money in his 1/8 cent sales tax. I know it's his desire to spend those monies on dugouts and striping the parking lot. I added those into his budget. We are going to be tight in the general overall at the end of the year, but I would hate to not do that shower. Parks is going to pay for part of it. Sanitation is going to pay for the other part of it. They get into some nasty stuff over at the recycle center. And after mowing all day long, I think we all can agree that a shower is not a bad idea.
As far as the striping goes, I'm willing to volunteer my time for it. I painted houses in parking lots. I did the aero box company, did all their striping. Really, it's not.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that we
Okay.
could team up and get that done without that 35. I mean, it's not that expensive.
Okay.
I think the 3,500 including the concrete parking lots. That's
Because I
what-
think Joe said did he say he was going to stripe it? I thought he said
It
that.
was like, I think he said that, I don't recall, honestly.
I don't either.
I would have to look back. But I know that there was like $2,000 in those concrete blocks. We talked about whether they should do the lighter ones that recycle too.
I brought a catalog for Lana to look through that does have those, and they're priced a whole lot cheaper than that,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Somebody told me the other day that these tadpole dugouts were actually, they had already looked them up years ago and just never got them.
It was approved quite some time ago. It's just never been completed. Well, from budget to budget, I mean, we would have that, and that's been probably 4 years ago. So I would say it needs to be a part of this budget and,
They had.
mhm.
Okay. Well, I know we changed internal procedures. In your budget year, you have to vote again, so
So the monies for the dugouts, I don't know if that is just materials or if that includes material and labor. I assume that it's just material.
I'm going to want one of those things filled out.
Yeah.
With top to bottom,
Yeah.
who's doing it, how much, because I don't want it to go over, 4,000 seems very reasonable for, and maybe even a little more than.
So do we have a list started of things that we know that we want to do, like fire building is one now, the tadpole dugouts, was there something else that I've missed?
The shower.
Showers.
Okay.
The community building expense, just so we have an idea of what it's costing us versus what it's bringing in, I have put all of the expenses under there, and the only thing wrong with that is it includes their utilities, and there's a line item for utilities under parks, but I want the council to be aware of what that overall expense is. And this is the 11,000 on the expense and the 5,000 on the income is pretty consistent with where we are this year.
Okay.
So I hope we do better next year. I hope there's more income. It seems like it's picked up, but there are seasons that people don't use it in season. Christmas is wonderful, summertime is wonderful. Then we do have months where it just sits there, so.
Spring and fall.
But hopefully that looks better. It seems like the use of it's picking up, so.
I just feel like we need to advertise more on that. whole aspect.
Agree,
Of using that facility.
agree. Because I do see on Facebook a lot where people are like, hey, I'm looking for a place to rent, does anybody know of anything? So,
And if you just pop it on there every now and then.
with the rates and,
Yeah.
not a bad idea at all.
You can revamp that part on the website as well.
What is the rate?
75, now there are no deposits, used to be there are deposits. It's 75 for the big annex, then it's 50 for the senior center and 50 for the gym.
And that was for how long? Was there a time?
I believe there is, and I apologize, I don't
That's
have
all
that
right.
information. I think it's 4
I think it's
hours.
4 hours.
Or-
Yeah.
Why is there no longer a deposit?
That was presented to the board, and the board voted to not do a deposit at Joe's recommendation. So I don't have an answer for that. I never think that a deposit is a bad idea, because we do hand out keys, and they are using city property. But
I say, for some reason, I remember us voting to increase. I don't remember us voting against the deposit.
Okay.
But even if they were to write you a $50 check or whatever, and you're just holding the check, you don't even cash it and hand it back to them at the end when everything's all good, that makes more sense to me than a deposit.
nothing.
Checks anymore.
What's wrong with the phone?
I don't do checks anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can even get like a small money order or something. Somehow, I mean, have you ever been to a place that's like, oh, yeah, I just want to use my facility, but I'm not going to use anything?
It's my hope that with the workload on City Hall being alleviated by new employees, that we can set up a credit card system where people can just come in and pay with a credit card, whether it's their bill or a rental or
Yes.
a dog tag, whatever it is. That's my hope.
That's,
So
the citizens want that.
That
Yes.
That would be-
Yeah,
that
I
would
don't
be a
blame
big
them.
step for us.
I don't carry cash. I get that. I don't carry a checkbook either. So if I had to pay my bill at City Hall.
That's gonna say, what's wrong with it?
Jamie, you're the only one that uses checks still.
I have a dollar.
It's only in my business too, so I have no room to.
Hey, I still write checks, guys. City gets one. That's about the only check I write a month.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, sanitation. So item number 1, it said it includes a contractual 3% yearly increase. Our contract with GFL states that they will increase their rates 3% every October. So we do that every October just to keep up and not go in the hole in that fund. Region M reduced their grant, so it will pay for Cliff's employment, it will pay for 70% of Joe's salary plus $72.6140 in fringe. That covers his health insurance stipend.
What is the 4% increase on?
I have done oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. I have done a 4% across the board for employee increases. And certainly the board can vote not to do that. But I think Victor was the one that said he would like to see that in our last meeting, and so I just did that across the board, with the exception of people who have received raises in the past 12 months.
So do you have a spreadsheet of everybody's salary that we could view?
I could print that report, show you what that looks like.
Okay.
But it is in, well, I say it is in here. What has been budgeted for each account is in here.
I'm talking
But the
spreadsheet
increase
we did
doesn't.
Last year,
Mhm,
I'd
yeah,
like to see that.
okay, yeah, I can do that. The general fund, I'm sorry, I just moved on, just wasn't finished with sanitation. Region M no longer pays for fuel, that's something out of our pocket. I included $6,000 out of capital outlay for half of the small building with shower, except sanitation does not have a capital outlay account. I copied and pasted from Parks, and I apologize. So the monies that we receive for trash bills, we get $1 per bill, and that would help alleviate that. It's an administrative fee that we get per bill per month. So. Joe requested tires for the recycle truck and trailers. That was what I was telling you about, that he was willing to forego the building for this, and it was $1,300. And then Cliff has opted out of the free market position. He would rather not receive that, so that's an additional savings. You don't have to spend out of sanitation. Their overall is minus $12,697. These are the reasons when people come to the council meeting and say, hey, can I get this out of the general fund? And I'm like, no, you can't. General other, I call that my budget, when in actuality my budget is I can use sewer, gas, water, streets, and general for the things that I need. So my budget looks minimal out of general other. It did include a portion of an increase, the 4%, and then I was going to request a merit increase for Carrie of $1.10 an hour. That's 41 cents more than the 4%, and it's $1.10, and that would put her at $18.25. Carrie's been here 8 years. She's a loyal employee. She's a good employee. She's a hard worker. When I can't depend on anybody else, I can depend on Carrie. And so I feel like that's a much deserved.
She had an excellent attitude about being by herself in that office the other day.
100%.
I was very impressed.
100%. And when I ask her to step up, a lot of times there's like, I'll try, but I'll do it, you know. So she's willing to go the extra mile when I need her to. Other than that, I have no other special requests, because one of these days I'm going to have great big requests.
With a smiley.
With a smiley face, just for encouragement. That does put the overall, I'm surprised it's not here, and I may need to go print one really quick. The overall general fund budget at minus $25,000, you don't have that there in front of you. The overall bottom dollar for general is minus $25,000. That being said, $46,000 of that is coming from existing funds that we already have for Tim's building, and then the additional $12,000 for Joe's office and shower. That is in existing funds. This is projected budget. Those are existing funds. So while that number looks ugly, it's not as ugly as it sounds. So we would actually end up with, I can't do math in my brain, but about $40,000 ahead by the time it's all said and done. Yes, ma'am.
What are we paying for the dues, subscriptions, and contracts? What are all of those?
There's a lot of them. And I'm happy to print that off for you.
I mean,
I tried to weasel those down a lot. Every department pays subscriptions and dues. DTOM Technologies is one.
which is,
I'm sorry, our IT guy.
is that a contract?
I think it's
that we
$300
do?
a month. Yes, every January.
And we ever
Yes.
bid that out for someone else?
We did. We bid it out 2 years ago, I think. So initially, Tony was just an hourly, and it's Tony Flint, DTOM. Initially, Tony just billed us hourly, and he was getting busy enough that he needed to determine who his real customers were. And so he presented to all of his customers across the board, if you want to pay me monthly, then you're my customer and you take priority. It served the city well. I'm not familiar with other IT people, but I'm thankful that Tony knows our system as well as he does. Like I said, we have bid it out in the past, so I'm
That's
not,
one. Is there others?
I don't believe we received any others.
No, I meant. the
Oh,
contract.
I'm sorry. Let me click on my
Sorry.
computer. I have QuickBooks pulled up so I can
In the
look.
wastewater, we have Missouri Rural Water.
Yeah, there are tons of,
We've got Virtual Academy, which is the online training, instead of sending them all off to the creating trainings.
So each department's gonna have those.
I'm sorry?
This is not adding up to me. If he's under dues and subscriptions and contracts, it's showing 3,000 on that, but that's 3,600. Is he taken out of other budgets then? It's three-
Yes, everybody
Absolutely.
would probably have to split that
Absolutely.
cost.
Okay.
I can split our dues and subscriptions here in City Hall
With the
with
streets.
the other funds, yes.
Now, so it's like that's 3,600.
So our total dues, subscriptions, and contracts for the entire city is $67,000.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Our total dues, contracts, and subscriptions, thank you, for the city is $67,569. We pay utility service company. When we get to water, there's a short explanation on there. That is that contract that we decided not to renew. Well, there are two contracts with them for the towers because there are two towers. We canceled one of them, but the other one we can't cancel until October.
Right.
So it's still significant. 33,000 of that 67,000 is water tower contracts. Mhm. Rico, our copier, not just Rico, Rico machine in City Hall, 628 a year. Railroad management, 313 a year.
Railroad management?
Licensing fees. We pay it every single year, although we don't always see, make sure that's legitimate, but Carrie's pretty good about being followed, and she doesn't know she follows up too. Peterson mowing was 4,700 so far this year.
We don't usually, no.
We will have them all. We paid them in 22-23 budget year, 4,700. Newton County Sheriff's Office, we take some board bills, and then there's an agreement we pay with them every year. Something to do with your,
It's for holding inmates.
no, sorry, I can't see right now. Central Square maintenance, $1,200 a year, and it has to
That's
do
the,
with fees.
That's a, yeah, it's our computer, in-car computer system.
We have a
They control all that
subscription with,
crap.
Did you say 1,200 a year?
that's not bad.
That we use the inbox.
Oh, yeah.
Newton County Assessor's Office, we pay them $200 a year for their GIS system. That is the police department. Our Chamber of Commerce membership, Missouri Water and Wastewater, membership, Missouri Water membership. We pay, so Missouri Rural Services Corporation has a bond, Missouri right of ways that we have to carry the MoDOT every year. That way their right of ways are insured. Missouri One Call, we have a contract with them. $865,000. So when they say Missouri One Call is free, call 811, it is free, but not to the city. Missouri Municipal League is almost $700 a year. Miners Lawn Services, 300. Intuit with payroll, 2,800. Municipal Impact, 797.50. Area Criminal Coordinating Council, $656.
Which reminds me, we need to utilize them.
Yes, and general code is 2,000. They keep our code book updated for us. Energy World Net, and that's gas, is $800. BTOM has been 6,000, that's total for the year.
Is there like just added expenses on that? 'Cause that's when.
There are, anytime he comes in and works on stuff that isn't part of his contract, he bills us hourly.
What's his hourly rate?
others and make sure that they're adequate, and that's what we need to be spending our money on.
Let me print it off. Does everyone want a copy?
Yes, please.
I don't need one.
I'll share with you guys so you can see it.
Are you guys okay? I've got a call pending. You ever go continue here?
We never
That's
asked
for the
you-
city.
We never asked you to be here to begin with.
Do it.
We never asked you to be here to begin with.
Lana did.
Making that up, didn't you?
Actually, Lana asked me. so-
Oh, okay.
I thought all of them were.
I thought so too, but
Hey Rico, text me what day next week besides the 4th of July would be good to work on some of that abatement stuff, okay? Just give me a chance.
I'll get it later. I think something else I was thinking. I'll miss some too, dude.
All right.
Oh, wow.
All of them.
Okay, that's printing.
Anyway.
sorry.
That's
Did we
okay.
sidetrack that?
No,
It's
it's
just a
okay.
Legitimate question.
That's why I had QuickBooks open. I figured there would be questions, so easy access. Did we finish with sanitation in general? And I think we did. Okay.
What is the rent? I'm sorry, the 3302, what is the rent?
So that is called, actually, statutorily, it's a fee in lieu of. And that's a fee in lieu of them having their own city hall. And by them, I mean our proprietary funds. Gas, water, sewer, and then street is included in that too, I think. They pay rent to City Hall, and they'll use City Hall instead of a gas office or to do their administrative stuff. And it used to be called rent. I haven't changed the name of it in QuickBooks, but we have a resolution for that, and it is 5% of their net income quarterly. I also, by resolution, have 5% of their net income into the minimum fund balance, according to recommendations from the Secretary of State. So those numbers should always, the same amount comes from 5% from sewer, 5% from gas, 5% from, and they help support City Hall. They help support the general fund, keep it healthy, and it is legal. If we could not do that, we couldn't have a police department, a fire department, parks
I get
department.
it, I just didn't know what the.
Yeah, that's what that is. It's, and probably 5 or 6 years ago, the auditors came to us and said, you can't pay rent, you have to call it something else. And are we allowed to do it? Yes, but we just can't call it rent. It's an administrative fee. So,
Indirect costs.
yes, yes. And once it comes to the general fund, it helps maintain the general fund.
That's how our grant is, we have a 8%
Yes.
indirect fund that goes out of the budget for,
And we had talked about that. It
Yeah.
didn't connect with me that that's
Yeah.
what.
the business and license permits. What is the rate of those?
Business license are $10, and I actually have a note on my desk to discuss that with the council before September. I just think it wouldn't be unreasonable to increase that. $10 a year is minimal for a business to have a city license.
Yeah, because isn't it the same amount if you just do a yard sale or something?
The yard sale permit is free,
Okay.
but it's $10 now. A peddler's permit,
Right.
it is $1 per day or $10. And that's for somebody who's coming into town selling solar systems, or, they're peddling their vacuums or whatever, then it's $1 a day. So they could technically come into town and do business for 10 days with a $10 business license.
Right.
So I just don't think it's unreasonable to increase that business license amount. $10 is
That whole little
cheapo.
section might need to be revamped.
Yeah, And hopefully before the first of the year, those are all due December 31st, so,
If you want to add that, I'll do that in the agenda
okay.
in August, if you know July's.
Okay.
We'll address that. That way we don't forget or, because that's an ordinance. you know,
Mhm.
that's-
And there was something else I was going to ask about increasing fees for. We currently don't have fees for, we currently don't have fees in writing anywhere for new service. There's a $50 sewer connection inspection fee for a new service. And by new service, I mean, not an existing house. Somebody has built a home. They've attached to our water system, our gas system, our sewer system. Costs them $50. And I think that's way under sold.
Well, because how much labor intensive is that for that to happen?
Right, exactly.
For the sewer, not much at all, because they do all the work.
And you go inspect it,
Just go and inspect it, make sure correct materials are being used.
but water and gas are not the same as that
Correct.
because there are meters involved, and so. Anyway, and just a thought, but with your
How much is
permission.
it for a meter? The cost of a meter? you don't-
They aren't getting cheaper and they're getting harder to find the type that we use.
Yeah, I
So-
remember us talking about we're going to have to
What
switch
he
over.
was
to-
saying that, you know, the old style that we have, they're no longer making, going to the scan type or that digital readout.
So we need to probably make it, you can still look at them though, if you have the scan type, you could still look at it and read it too.
I believe
Yes.
so.
So we need to probably start talking about switching over so that all the new ones that are coming in, start
I
putting in
know
those,
Jim's-
start upgrading, and eventually we'll be able to do all.
If I understand correctly, per meter, it's simply a small device that's placed on top of the meter with a radio antenna. But the meter has to be compatible with that device,
So
so.
we probably need to talk about moving towards the compatible ones, even if we're not utilizing the reading part just
Yeah.
yet. but-
Right.
But we can at least move ourselves in that direction.
I know the gym was talking about that.
Yeah. He's been talking with some different people, I think, yeah. You're right, Victor. Okay, street. Jim had requested a side-by-side, and it was agreed that street, gas, water, and sewer would each pay a portion of that. So I've included that in each of their budgets. And I've copied and pasted a lot because 20% of my salary and 20% of Carrie's salary can come out of these different funds. So you're going to be reading the same thing over and over and over, but that's why.
Okay, where does your other employees' wages come from?
Utility billing is sewer, water, gas.
Okay,
And Carrie and I can general sewer, water, gas, street.
okay.
And then the new part-time person will start 20 hours a week through court.
Yes.
Mhm. Street, we are very cautious what we pay for as far as labor because it increases our workers' comp significantly because the rating for injury with street employees is the highest one, and our street employee does not run a road grader or a asphalt truck or any of those things. He deals with gravel and cold mix and cement occasionally. So I typically try to pay the minimum out of street for labor, and that would be Dave Putman, and I also split him with gas and water. But he is the only laborer that I pay out of street.
I thought we weren't getting the sales tax for the motor vehicles anymore. I'm mistaken in that.
From out of state, yeah. That leaves our street with $96,000 net income at the end of the year. Jim has stated that he would like to start repaving some of the streets. The cost of that is just prohibitive. And so the less we spend out of street, the better, so he can kind of build that fund up and prepare to repair the streets as he can, with the exception of the ones that the EPA's can repair.
On the streetlights, somebody was talking about the LEDs the other day. Did we move to LEDs?
Liberty is moving to all LEDs. I don't know where we are on the list. I mean,
That would save us a bit.
it would save us money, and I don't know what cost is our cost for the transition. It's my understanding that it's their cost, kind of like the new poles that we requested on Main Street 3 years ago. I have been reassured repeatedly that we are on the list for new poles on Main Street. We were going to have them painted, and they said that was cost prohibitive, that they were just going to replace them. Supply is an issue, if I understand correctly. Getting those.
At what point should we start discussing trying to get solar?
I can add it to an agenda with the mayor's permission. I'm happy to have that discussion.
Yeah, have it on the agenda.
I mean, if we can be cost effective, I mean, that's a lot for electricity.
It is well.
I mean, I know that the solar panels aren't cheap either, but if we can,
If there's savings there, it's
Yeah.
definitely something to research. And
definitely.
you had talked previously about discussing solar for wastewater too, was that correct? Or just solar in general for the
In
city?
general.
Okay.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Possibly grants also too, so I'll
Mm.
try to look into that, see.
And Harry Esterman might be able to help
What
us
is
find
yours
some
for
grants.
electric?
Ours is 3,000, I think, is the budget for
Yeah.
electric. Huge.
Yeah.
It is. And waters is currently huge. I hope with the new water system, that's alleviated some. I also think that when you get your new wastewater treatment
I don't really anticipate any really big changes
in that, okay.
It'll stay about the same.
But if, I mean, in this area back here in the floodplain, that we could go up on that hill and put some solar panels would be ideal. Since we can't do anything on that
Yeah.
property that we own,
And look at that retention.
we could go up above it with, on that side of the hill for.
Yeah. Faces south with no trees, no shade to speak of, and so, yeah.
I've got solar panels, and I love them.
Love 'em.
Summertime, I have no bill.
Anybody I've ever talked to, that has been their response.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking there were scams or something.
The only bill I
Same.
have in the summertime is my utility light and taxes.
Really?
That's it.
There's
And I also get credits that I get to use in the wintertime to bring that down.
Do you know some electric companies do not offer reimbursement for excess? Isn't that interesting?
Some companies even buy back excess. Liberty doesn't.
It's a thought, because that's a,
Yep.
That kiddo that came in, he was trying to convince me that we need to go all electric, or all of solar, if we could. Yeah, he had some interesting ideas, and it was interesting listening to him. I did look up one of the towns down in Florida that's doing it too. But they started the town all solar. They are a
For
very
that purpose.
self-sufficient town. Yeah.
I think it's Republic that has a big solar farm
Oh, yeah.
that they use over there.
Now, he had it all plotted out, he's like, you put 3 different farms, obviously. I mean, it was interesting.
Cemetery, does anybody have any more questions on the street?
other than, I guess I'll just ask the obvious. I know that he wants to, you said repave places. What about just the minor repairs that have not been taking place?
Obviously, I can't answer that for him. He's not here today. Certainly something to look at. I did not allow for
I was
any.
gonna say, there's nothing on capital outlay there.
So under the line system repair and maintenance, I allowed 6,000. That's not a lot of money for street repairs, and honestly, because it's not a line system, but it's his, streets are his utility, if you will. I put it under, those repairs under line system. I've allowed 6,000, and that's cold mix and gravel. So, certainly, something we may wish to discuss with Jim in the future, and he does have funds to do that.
What did he spend this year?
That one's a hard one to compare because you'll have the EPA's information in there, and we just spent $96,000.
Right.
But the EPA put the money in for it also. When you're comparing, it's gonna be hard to compare that once you take those EPA projects out, and then you can tell what we utilize.
Right, well, we can certainly figure the difference.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I do know that Kimberly mentioned that there's money in there to fix one of the utilities. I can't remember.
There's still funds in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we have supplies, is the supplies for signage? Because I know that we talked about more signs that we're trying to get. And did those signs get ordered this week?
I believe so. I'll check with Carrie.
Okay. And we can find out where the school zone signs, if they're been ordered. We were told they were ordered, if they were on back order.
Okay. I think we got those.
Because they were put up when I went, after I got that Facebook post, I went driving. And
I
they
think
were-
I saw that package arrive last.
Okay.
I probably need to go in and fill out a work order for this one too, but there is one that like we need dead end assignments at the drag. Jim's aware of it, he said he thinks there is one here, he's been out of town.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and fill out a work order for it.
What about right up there in front of the Nazarene Church? I know we blocked the road off, but you can still come down the road, a stop sign sitting there. Can we put up a dead end, take down the stop sign and put up a
Down
dead
Church
end?
Street.
Yeah, or something like that. It's, if you don't drive the road, it's,
Request, Bobby?
yeah, it's confusing if you don't know it's there.
You're right.
That is a hard thing. I've seen buses and cars try to pull in and out of that.
Mhm.
They have to turn hard on, that is I'm not sure that was the best for all of our systems. Because you can't pull in and have a bus there at the same time on the alternate.
Going out on the
Why
B
did they
highway.
take that? Okay. Did not know.
So he spent about $7,100 in supplies, last year for rock, coal mix, that sort of thing. That does not include contract labor because, bad trucking hauls all of that for us. They go get it, they bring it to us. So that's $7,000 was the supplies only.
And then we pay an additional contract labor.
For transport, yes.
Okay.
Yes. He spent just out of the city, $3,400 on the line system maintenance, and that was for road repairs and cold mix from Hutchins Construction. I'm sorry, Hutchins Construction came in and put down cold mix. So.
Is that not something our guys can do?
Typically they do, I'm wondering if it wasn't a large patch or
Okay.
something. Yeah, typically our guys do all of that, but, so his total $3,387, so $3,400 for the year on his line system.
Is that included this month?
They are supposed to be coming in and putting asphalt going up to that bridge too, but I don't think they've passed that through the EPA.
This is for the year, it's from July 1st to June 30th.
Okay.
So Carrie has all her bills in. Now, we did spend $164,000 of the grant income from the EPA. They gave us $192,000, I believe, and $164,000 on road repairs.
Okay.
So, is that my phone?
No, it's mine. I'll go.
It's okay. I just thought it was mine.
We
I was
had a
like,
conversation
here.
before and I got distracted. I'll go.
ask me something else.
Probably.
Was I gonna make a note of something?
You lost our teeth.
I lost
After
that.
questions, yeah.
The signs, that's what I asked about. Is
The
that part of that
signs.
as well?
Let me make sure. It is part, I saw where we ordered signs from the Thomas Office.
Glad that didn't go south. I think that that was the line.
This last year we ordered the 13,000 signs. So that's gonna be.
Wasn't that done before this budget though?
The 2022, 2023, it was voted on in November.
Of the year before, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so
It should have been in last year's budget.
July of 21, they were ordered May 18th of 21. But July of 22, we paid $11,000 for signs. So I assumed that that was the big back street sign with the holes. It included holes, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
yeah, so it came out of this budget, or like the 22, 23 budget.
It doesn't look like we've received the bill yet for the school zone. So,
So that'll be on next year's budget? Okay.
Right. And I'll make myself a note to add that in too. So I need to add school zone signs and I need to add Watch for Children signs. Okay. Anything else you think of on street?
I appreciate you humoring us, Lana.
There are lots of things I don't think of, so I love more eyes.
Does the side-by-side have to come out of our streets fund? I know they're reading meters, can more of it come out of the gas versus our streets? Are we able to shift that? Does this budget, when we get to the, because I haven't got to see the street for the gas yet. Does it allow?
Gas, water, and sewer all end with an excess, and that's fairly typical. That's fairly standard, so.
But I think I see where you're going. If we're not gonna take that percentage out of the street, then the streets will actually get those funds to put
Yeah.
on the streets.
We can move that capital outlay back up to your line maintenance systems, and then that gets you 11,000 instead of.
Okay.
Can-
Yeah,
The other
I mean,
ones
it's
can
a-
sustain that.
additional 1,650 from those three proprietary funds.
And it's gonna be utilized more, I would think. Well, I won't be, you can't count it this week.
Sure.
If that's okay with you.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
So
It's
the 4x4,
gonna be hard
yeah.
to justify getting, the side-by-side, I think we need it, I do.
Right.
And it's hard to justify to our citizens why we're using the street for that side-by-side. We're struggling to make sure that those streets are taken care of.
And I just want to say that we bought a fantastic side-by-side with a dump bed for $12,000. And we bought it used, but it's phenomenal. It's a beast. So I'm thinking maybe we could shop around and buy two. You know, maybe if
Because I
if
think
you
it's
guys are
actually
willing.
20,000.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you'll see we're saving in the long run, honestly, because you don't have a vehicle burning gas.
Mhm.
And then it's easier for them to get in and out of, it'll change their times, I think,
I
honestly.
think so, too.
I really do.
I think it's a benefit definitely to all of the departments. I just want to know who gets to drive it most, because those things are fun.
They are.
Just FYI. Okay, cemetery. As usual, I have a pretty significant shortfall. They are not part of general. In the past, general has taken up the slack. Previously, the cemetery provided additional funds to the city from sale of lots to help offset the cost of mowing. A few years ago, they quit doing that, it's their prerogative. My argument remains that if they have the funds, why is the city responsible for it? Now, I want it to look beautiful, don't get me wrong. I think our cemetery is a beautiful cemetery, and I want it to remain that way. But general fund cannot sustain that. And I don't know where those additional funds are going to come from unless it's street, which is another governmental fund. Cemetery is under governmental. Their shortfall is $9,600. So the money that we save from the 4x4 is going to pay for mowing. You know, I realize that came off sarcastic. I apologize.
No.
But I just don't know how to sustain the cemetery.
Do they pay anything to the city?
Mm-mm. All of their income comes from, all of the income on the cemetery fund for the city comes from 8 cents per $100 valuation on real estate, I believe is how that's worded. So it amounts to roughly $7,800 a year. And then on burials, we get $100 per burial for administrative fees because we pay the contract labor. So the funeral home pays us $600, we give the backhoe operator $500, and we keep $100. So that income is determined by how many burials we have a year. It's fluid. Mhm. I know, I think I don't even want to say it out loud, but
How can we get that changed?
Well, dues, subscriptions, and contracts, 18,000 on the
we
cemetery.
have a contract with the mower, so it is under contracts.
Okay.
That is the only thing under cemetery contracts.
So here's, I guess I have the hardest time with that. That is my hardest understanding. So we contract mowing out, and we started doing that, and we just got through saying that's 18,000. How much a general laborer for an entire year, starting off, how much do they make on average?
$15 an hour is about $29,000 a year.
29. So what we're looking at is an $11,000 difference from having one of our employees do this, and this is a seasonal thing because they don't do it at the winter. Yeah.
I think for a while, that's why Jim and the boys were doing it, but it was very taxing on all of his other departments, you know,
But if
because
we
during
can-
mowing season, they're crazy
But if we
busy.
can have that department have a part-time seasonal employee, that we could utilize him for other areas throughout the year, throughout those months that the mowing season is.
And that has been a discussion. It would have to be paid out of streets. It could not be paid out of,
Well, where's your 1,800 coming from?
So our cemetery cannot hire a full-time employee?
I don't know.
Here's where my brain goes.
yeah.
If we had a full-time employee that actually mowed the cemetery and utilized other places, we have other employees where we're paying part of their salary out of this and part of their salary out of that.
Mhm. Right.
So if we could contract an employee to do the mowing part, the rest of their job could be something else within the city that goes on those other months.
So if they're mowing the water towers, it could be paid out of water. If they're mowing the right-of-ways, it could be paid out of streets.
And that's their job, they do the mowing for the entire city.
The wastewater plant, the station.
Yeah.
And they're specifically a mowing employee, and then we have a yearly, I mean, I don't think you should go part-time, because you're not gonna find somebody who's gonna only wanna work those, you know what I mean? So if we had that,
Unless you find someone like out of high school
You get a
type.
kid in the summertime. out of
Summer
school.
temporary.
you could, but every year you're gonna be
Yeah.
fighting to find
Yeah.
somebody. I mean, I'm not trying to,
Right.
I sometimes have a hard time getting my lawn mowed, you know what I mean? Like, so if you had a full-time employee that you specifically said, this is your job, like we did with Street the other day.
And
And
Jim
you
has
had
said,
monthly-
I could use another guy. So I think this is a great conversation to have
We
with
have
him.
5 on the books right now. Don't
We
we?
have 5 guys for Jim's department, you mean? So I have Jim, 3 employees, and then we're having another laborer that we're employing across, between sewer, water, gas.
Is that the 10th?
That's the additional employee that was requested at the last meeting.
Yes, he's temporary
The-
right now, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that didn't
that's
connect.
fine.
Michael is filling that position right now, and we have advertised for applications for that
So
position.
is that gonna be this person?
Well, I'm
Or
not
is
saying
that-
it
are
is,
we
I'm
talking
just,
in
I'm
addition?
just talking, no, I would not say in addition to, I don't,
So take $7,800 out of cemetery. Now, obviously, we have a contract with miners, so we can't do that right now.
right.
But when this expires, absolutely, I think it's something to,
Every year this has been an
Consider.
issue.
Yes.
And what's happening is we're contracting with other people, and we sign contracts, if it's not fulfilled, we don't even have a very good bite to our bark besides, okay, your contract's done, let's find another person, and then we're back, we're still in the
Mhm.
same problem. It didn't even solve the problem of it's not done.
and the city has the equipment.
Yeah, the city has the equipment, so I'm not saying
Right.
he's not doing a good job or anything
Right.
either. I'm just saying that it seems kind of silly to do this as contract.
Well, because last year we wasted a lot of money.
Yep.
Yes.
They didn't do nothing.
Yes. And
We paid
our
for it.
our guys still ended up out there mowing and helping, and yeah, I agree.
And even at this point, there's a misconception of,
What area to know?
we were given an amount and an additional amount, and I haven't resolved that issue yet. but
Mhm. Carrie spoke with him previously. She may have the answer
that's-
to that
okay,
for you.
I'll talk with her. But I'm just saying that when you look at these numbers, we're paying 18,000, a whole worker for the whole year is, for roughly 29.
Then you're gonna have your, insurance too,
Yeah.
the $600.
But if it is this additional laborer that we're talking about, that has been included in the budget already.
Yeah.
So I do wish Jim was here, and it might be a conversation for the two of you.
Well, I know the position that we were 29 covers. I really need is somebody with decent mechanic background, electrical, just mechanical skills. Jim was needing somebody that could,
Pitch
learn
in.
the gas, has skills already as far as digging.
So, but that's not, what you're listing is not something that you're gonna utilize every single day.
No, that's
It's-
why we were looking to split it by thirds between 3 different departments.
Right, so if you split it in thirds, and he was a third you, a third the cemetery, and a third,
And I was looking for not a laborer, really. I know I haven't written the job description yet, but I'm trying to get it put together.
So if we have somebody fulfilling that role that Jim needs and that you need, it's possible we already have somebody on staff who likes to mow that could fill the role of mowing if some of the other areas were covered.
maybe, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that person, but that person will be freed up in other areas, so that person could cover the other job, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
There are days I would rather mow. I mean,
Little thinking time.
right?
I've just noticed the last 2 years, this is not the best
Yeah.
decision we've made.
I mean, I've mentioned it a lot of times, and it's,
Especially if we're paying for
Mhm.
that person and that mowing. We might as
Absolutely.
well have the utilization of the employee.
absolutely. Agree.
So when this contract comes up, that's.
When does it do?
I think December.
September.
So I was thinking December, or after mowing season possibly, so.
And that will give us time to get our ducks in a row before the next mowing season.
Mhm.
That's my.
So we need to make sure that the budget is going to sustain that fifth employee? Is that already budgeted?
Yep, it's budgeted in.
Budgeted in, yeah.
Insurance, taxes, and wage
Okay.
at $15 an hour is what I threw in there. I don't know what anybody wants to pay.
And then one other question, do we need to renegotiate something with the board? If there is I don't know what they bring in as far as, I know what you're saying is, discussion has been held in the past with that, the funds. Do we need to continue to talk about renegotiating something with our cemetery board?
In the interim,
Yeah.
so I certainly would encourage that. I think that it's something that needs to be discussed just for the duration of the mowing contract. possibly they could help out, because those funds are to be used for maintenance of the cemetery. That's what their guidelines say. They can share 50%, or they can share all of it, and they used to share all of it, now they share none of it.
Shame on us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
Can
been
you-
having this discussion for a while.
Can you add that on to an upcoming agenda?
I need another sticky note.
I'm sorry. You know, I was sitting there talking to my husband the other day, and I'm like, honey, there's a lot of changes that we're talking about, and I don't know how many changes people can handle all at once. So it scares me because I know we need to make these changes, but then it's like, change is scary too at the same time. And how many can you handle at once? He's like, well, don't get so many in the air that you can't. But I'm like, they're all in different departments and different things where it is spread out over, I don't know, so.
So we're going to add the cemetery item to an agenda? Is that what you said?
Yeah, to discuss a renegotiation with the board on, covering this contract. And I'll get a little bit more educated on the subject.
Okay.
But what do you think in July?
I thought we were full in July.
We are, but
Yeah.
if you wait, I mean, you're gonna, if
We're
you
gonna
wait
run
till
out of-
August, then you're almost out of your mowing season.
Let's go ahead and put it on the first meeting in July. And is that 7/13?
I hate to add more to us, guys, but
Yeah,
the longer you
get it
wait,
done.
the,
Yeah,
When do we change to Thursdays?
July.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
I'll
I
stay
agree.
here as long as we need to.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Okay, move along to sewer. Victor, you're up. We did not, we did not have a utility increase last year. Victor requested in his budget that he presented to me a 3% increase in utilities. Sewer will eventually go up, and here we are again. We talked about this with water the other night, and there's something coming down the pike with sewer. I don't know what it is, but something's getting ready to happen, and we do have a bid from a contractor to come start our new wastewater treatment plant. We've been waiting on RD and CDBG and all of that, but I agree with the 3% increase, if not for simply.
How far are we away from the NHI, do you know?
I've had those
Was it
numbers.
18?
We're real close already. I don't even
Yeah.
think it was that much. For some reason, $13 or
Okay.
something was in my head.
Yeah.
but I can relook. We're real close. That's why that
It doesn't look like
2%
water.
just kind of kept getting us, real close.
Closer.
Where even once the project's done, we're not going to see a huge increase like what might happen with the water.
Okay.
But I don't have that exact figure.
Well, I know we have to be there by the end of it.
Yeah.
So I know we don't
Yeah.
have a choice.
Mhm. So I allowed for that 3% utility increase in this budget.
Will that need to be a?
By ordinance, yes, yes. I allowed for a third of a shared laborer. And then Victor had requested a generator, lift
It's actually
station,
a repair to a generator.
a repair.
Yeah.
What would this laborer's gonna start out at? Do we have a ballpark?
$15 an hour is what I budgeted for.
A third of that, okay, because you're adding in your,
Taxes and health insurance and all that stuff, so roughly 15,000-ish. I should have put that on there. Is that professional? Ish. 5,000 for lift station on Hebron, and I had a quarter of a side-by-side. I will change that to a third of the side-by-side, which would be 1666. And then 90,000 for the bond series payment. Every month I put back $7,500 per resolution to pay our bond payment that we currently have on the sewer. One of those is going away in October. It will be paid in full, but we will still have another one that we need to pay. So we put that money back. We budget for that. We have monies that we're anticipating from CDBG. I did not include them in this. They were spent out of this year's budget. They will come into the following year's budget, but we will be reimbursed for the land purchase, $27,000. Then I did, again, the across-the-board 4% increase to include 20% of mine and 20% of Carrie's. And it doesn't say that there, but it should say that it is 1/3 also of our utility billing.
And what is her rate?
14 an hour is what she makes.
No.
And she would not get a 4% raise.
Well, what about Lance? Because we just raised him after, that was a merit raise, is that?
It was a merit raise that had been promised previously
Oh, did he get
upon,
it? I wasn't aware.
completion of
license.
training. Yeah, he had to get his license, and once he got the license, the board had told him that he would get an increase. Was it 50 cents an hour?
That's what he was
Ish.
told, but I couldn't find it in the minutes or.
I was thinking didn't you already vote on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
increased that.
So I did allow for a 4% increase for Lance, not keeping in mind that he had previously received a raise. He's currently at 1610, I think. Let me confirm that.
So is he your only guy?
Yes, other than right now, Michael, I guess on a temporary, has been doing some work with us.
How often do you use Michael?
Well, I guess during that first 3 or 4 weeks, he was mainly, when the other boy was out with the eye injury.
Right.
Michael was just, they were out on water leaks just constantly. Right now, I think the last 4 or 5 days I've had him, he's made repairs to our main lift station generator, which saved us a lot of money as far as service call. He's fixed 2 pumps that were given to us. These are gas-powered pumps given to us from the EPA that ran new, but I guess never run, and they were just going to throw them out. He got both of those working, so we'll take one in the water department. They're each $500 new. And then there's another 4-inch pump, which is about a $4,000 pump. The motor went out on it, so he's going to rebuild it. And that's, saved us from having to buy, it needs pistons, rings, but it does.
It's not allowing me to open payroll from this computer, it's saying access denied, fatal error.
I believe he was at 1605 is the number.
Is that what it was?
I believe.
Anyway, I will look at that and see.
I have a question. Are you training him for a,
Lance?
yes?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He's still going through that, I believe it was a year, maybe 2-year-long training through Missouri Rural Water, where he goes 2 days a week over to Republic and gets training. And then I work as his mentor in addition to what they're doing. But I probably need to really write it up a little bit more on what he's doing. I mean, it just, everything from disaster recovery to.
And I'm asking that question because I feel like, even though we did get a 50-cent increase, I am okay with doing a 4% increase for this budget.
Oh, yeah.
Is he training just in wastewater, or is he also trained in water?
I'm telling him he needs to go ahead and get his water license. And, I can help him with that. I used to have my license too. So that's something that he can do, I think, on his own. They're kind of similar in a lot of ways as far as a lot of the math and hydraulics and stuff. So, yes, I told him, it's good for the city and good for him.
It is, yeah.
He's a good employee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Real,
we appreciate him
Well,
here.
just saying, because you said, the very first thing we said was increases except for the ones that had gotten it. But I want to make it clear that we still need.
But his was for a reason.
That's why I
He's
asked. if
getting
it was-
special
it was a
training,
merit
and I
or-
believe that 4% increase is going to be beneficial for us.
Yeah.
yeah, and I really try to encourage him. I want us to, as a council and mayor, trying to encourage all departments to have us cross-train. Because
Yes.
when one guy goes down, that's why I used to have my license and everything I could get, for.
What's it take to get those licenses and keep them?
Well, a lot of it is just time working in that field or a high school diploma or GED. usually 6 months to a year of working in the field and just going to go take the test. They're making it even easier now. You can just take it on your home computer or at work or whatever and take it online.
Is that for recertifications?
Yes.
Okay.
And for getting your new license.
There was something he was doing, or he was having to go to Springfield weekly.
Yeah, he still does that.
Does he?
Every, or 2 days a month, so he still does that. I think it's a 2-year program. I can't remember.
He's been pretty committed. I mean,
Yeah,
he's,
Yeah, do continue to encourage him on that one.
Yeah.
And I agree, I think we all need to be cross-trained.
Yeah.
again, I like to mow.
You don't even think.
It's been a hard week.
Where's Lana?
Did you go to your house today?
Yeah.
Mow in the cemetery.
Taking her turn.
They don't weed eat, let me clarify.
That's part of the
I don't
job.
think very many people can do that.
It's part of the job.
Okay, so cemetery, pardon me, sewer ends with $6,360. But we will subtract $1,666 from that for the additional cost for the side-by-side. Victor, is there anything else you wanted to
No.
add to that?
It really is.
I just want to say that when it comes to doing budgets, Victor is the hands-on guy, and I appreciate him so much for that. Thank you. It makes my job a whole lot easier when.
There hasn't
when
been
I
a time
put-
where I've been here where you came in and said, I need to request this item. And I've said, what do we need it for? Well, this is the extra part. I already used the new one, and it's in my budget, and we're good.
And that's
It has
another
been
thing
on.
too, I had in there was a $6,000 actuator, but Michael just the other day took, because we do save old parts, sometimes you can rob them, and he got one, because I had it in my budget, so that was a $6,000 actuator that opens and closes valves 24 hours a day. So, you know, that was a good savings, and that's, you know, I know we're talking about a laborer, but I was hoping to find somebody that's got some experience. And I think we'd gotten another application, I think Terry had said, looked real good as far as
And
an
are we,
application.
so you're basically saying you don't feel like the 15 is going to be,
Well, I mean, we've got to have a starting point, so, I mean, I know the guy I got now, Michael, you know, he wants a job, he would like the full-time job, so. You know, but I know we need to look at all applicants, so. I've got him with 5 years' experience, you know, right now. It takes a lot of time to get somebody up with that training and that type of experience, especially in the wastewater. It's so specialized that it's hard to match that.
are you tracking his time that he's working with you?
Yeah, I've been supplying Lana with where if he's working gas, water, wherever it's at, streets, you know.
So you yourself are tracking where he's with the other departments as well?
Yeah, I have him fill it out. I look at it, and then I turn it into Lana so she knows which department to bill.
So you're getting a third of his usage?
Well, those first few weeks, no,
Right.
because he was, but, yeah. And, you know,
And Jim notes too, because
one
he's
month
used
may
him.
be lopsided here or there. It just depends where he's needed at.
I think he even came in on an after-hours call for Jim.
Yeah,
Jim needed
yeah.
a backhoe operator or something.
And for us too, I've got them programmed into our main lift station, our plant, you know, because I used to do it just by myself, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that gets old, all the alarms that we do get. But then I got Lance, so that's 2 of us, and I've got Michael programmed in right now.
So it sounds like our temp employee is the one that's getting cross-trained.
So he lives here in Granby, right, or very
Yes.
close to?
Yeah, I think mother-in-law or something.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a good response time, and that's one thing when you're looking at somebody, you need to have a response time, because a lot of these things are real critical. Like, if you don't catch it quick, you got a mess.
I like to tap into our community as much as possible, because then they circulate your dollars usually. Or, like you said, you have somebody closer, quicker response. There's several reasons why you should keep it in your community as much as possible. Several reasons.
Any more questions for sewer?
I'm hoping to start
And
construction.
As a sidebar here, you do not use a city vehicle personally,
No,
but Lance does,
Lance has the utility truck, yes.
for the
Sewer
sewer
department,
department.
yes.
Because I think that needs to be discussed of who's using city vehicles at some point.
Okay.
Because I know you said he's real close, would he be, he's not eligible to have a city truck.
Yeah, there's really no need right now. And then Lance, he lives in town too, so
Yeah.
he's close.
Just something to sidebar. Okay,
Do you want me to add that to my list to discuss that at some point?
please.
Okay.
You've been a wealth of knowledge on it.
When were you planning on returning? Can you push it back that long? She's gonna push it all back until after.
Well, Bill just told a story, because never is not the answer to that, but 5 to 6 years, so, and, statistically, it takes 5 to 7 years to train a city clerk, so hopefully we've got something happening in City Hall right now. I think Sandra's gonna be a great asset. Reference. Okay, gas. Tim had requested a gas leak detector for the fire department. Jim had agreed that gas should probably supply that for the fire department. And one of Jim's employees does work for the fire department, or is a volunteer for the fire department as well. So Jim needs a new one, and then we provide one for the fire department. Again, that side-by-side will change. I'll try not to repeat myself, but.
I know we discussed that earlier, I just, after looking at the numbers, that's why I thought we need to change that side by side, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's very reasonable. And it allows money for repair of city streets and sidewalks, which is vital, I feel. As we talked about earlier briefly, Jim would like to discuss the possibility of automatic meter readers. It's not yet in this budget. It is not yet in this budget because just the preliminary number is probably going to be around $3 million to do a complete changeover for gas and water meters. Now, it's better to do them both at the same time. He's hoping that it can be part of the new water system when that happens. So there's still a lot of unknown there, but the preliminary number is what that looks like.
Is any of that something we could do when we're putting our water system in?
That's what he's thinking. That's what, he's hoping that's going to be part of what this new water system looks like. And then just tag on for the gas to that. Yeah, that's his hope. But he's called around a little bit just to ask numbers. It would have to be compatible with the meters we have in the ground, or I guess gas meters aren't in the ground, but with the meters we currently use, and then compatible with our utility billing system. So that does limit a little bit, not a lot, but most of them are adaptable, if I understand correctly. It's the last day of the month. It's hectic. And then the other is repetitive. Yeah. The final number on the gas budget is $156,788. If we budget in new gas meters, it would take every bit of that, I'm afraid.
A question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this budget reflect the payments that the police department is making back to that fund?
I'm going to say no. I did not include that in there. And I make those payments monthly, and they total about $1,100. So, actually, I don't pay them to the gas fund. I pay them to the gas depreciation and replacement fund. So it wouldn't show overall in this one, except that I transfer $5,000 a month from this to gas depreciation and replacement, and that does not reflect in here. So, thank you.
Because how much is that payment? What are they? what do
There's
we have?
two of them, and I think about $1,100, but let me go look at that real quick. And that is paid out of the quarter cent sales tax.
Is reflected of, right?
So
But
we-
in the police budget, where's it listed?
Hold on just a second. Because those are transfers, there's not a line item for them, they're a journal entry. And so, I apologize. Hold on, let me make my note.
Sure.
So it's under the capital outlay where it says repayment of gas funds, 13,000 on the police. Do you see that? You go back to your.
The 24? The 24?
Well, yeah, on your front page where it says capital outlay on the police, it says number 1, repayment to the gas fund. So it's reflecting in their budget. the
Right.
funds.
And my books in here has cracks.
Credit to us. Okay, we can move on. I just wanted to fix some questions.
So, that's what's hurting our police.
Right.
1154 is what is transferred monthly from police department to gas depreciation and replacement.
And how long did we do that for? Well, I mean, was there a year, years, or how many years?
Here's by resolution, I can get that information for you shortly.
Yeah, I was just curious, like how long it would
Good
be.
question. I think
Probably.
it was, it might have been 15 years. In fact, 15 years. Should say 15 years.
Because we lost it 30. Would you consider the city hall part taking over a half of that or a third? Is it
Um,
considered to be half?
I would think it would be half. I mean, if we needed to put a parking spot for me in the garage to make it exactly half, that'd be okay.
That half is, it could be used, and Rico's like, we
Right.
have plenty of storage over here, that could easily be used as
Yeah.
storage in that whole section.
And he's been very receptive to it, so, but, I don't know how that would look legally, if we would purchase it from the police department and then the police department turn around and pay gas depreciation replacement. I don't know how that would look on paper, but certainly the other funds would alleviate the police department's burden significantly. Okay, any questions on gas? I have almost exactly the same thing on water, if not the exact same thing on water. With the exception of that contract for the water tower being reduced, and then when the second contract expires, we'll further reduce that contract, line 7181.
Are you budgeting the $5 increase that we proposed as part of this budget?
It'll be a wash, won't
I do not believe I did. I did a 2% increase and allowed for the standard, what we normally do. I'm happy to rewrite that number, and we could amend the agenda when that ordinance is passed. That probably would be my preference.
it? Yeah, when you amend it though, it is a wash though, whatever comes in goes right back out. So-
I agree. I think that's just smart.
But you said you budgeted for 2%, so it's not,
That's not a wash, no, that's not, that's gonna cause a.
yeah.
Well,
that's what
if-
I'm asking.
If, well, let's go back and look at their
So it's
bottom,
either the
their
2%
bottom
or
dollar.
$5.
Right.
So we can't do both, so that's why I'm asking about that.
So their bottom dollar, their net income is $63,754. So 2% off of that utility sales. And let's see what that looks like. It's $662. Let me do that math again. Sorry, $6,626. So that 63,000 would be reduced by 66,000.
You know, say that again.
So their bottom dollar, I took the 2% of the utility sales off.
Okay.
So that's 66, let me write that note down, $6,626.04. So 331, 302.04 minus. That would make that number 324,676. And make our net income $57,128.23. And I will make that change.
And remember, that's only a 6-month thing, so.
Okay, so let me ask the council this. We make that change, we create another line item, instead of utility sales, that income item, maybe I could put it under parts and installation income, just to kind of track, this is what this is for, this is
Yes.
what we're spending it on, although our expense would be a contract expense. So what we've done in the past on much smaller items is we have offset the expense with the income. So in other words, we receive $4,000 a month, we would put that income in the expense item, so that at the end of the year, it would say zero.
Yes, debit credit.
Yes, yes. Just,
But we have, I feel like we need to make sure that we have that documentation of that money is actually coming in, even though it's going out just like a shop on top.
okay. So I will talk with the accountants on what the best course of action would be, because here's what we run into with governmental accounting. Nancy and I from Taylor Green had a long talk earlier this week. Instead of just transferring the money from here to here, we have to transfer the money from here to here and then show it from here to here. And so there are actually 4 steps to it. So I'm afraid that if we put it in as an income and then we expense it separately, then we show the transfer for the account payable, it's not going to reflect in our budget. And I want to
I'm
see.
just questioning how that's gonna come
Yeah.
out on paper.
I need to talk to Nancy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I
Um,
just, as long as you know that that's something that we just need to be
Yeah,
proactive about.
yeah. I think a journal entry might fix that, but
Yeah.
So you don't, it should just have your own line item
I don't know. Certainly we want,
I know.
yeah, yeah. It's
Well,
just a
it's
hard
gotta-
one.
It's a paper trail that you've gotta make
Yeah.
sure you're documenting.
Yeah. And ultimately, when the auditors come ask me questions, I want to have a solid answer.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to cover our backs.
Yes, yes. Total, our overall budget, that is every income and expense account, including all payroll, including all insurance, including all the things. Our total expense is $2,425,555. The city's net income is $288,572.90. I feel like that's a good way to end our year. It allows the city to put money back for a rainy day, which I feel very strongly about that. I hope all of you do too. I know we receive a lot of conversation from people that the city is not a business, but I would contest that strongly, because if something were to happen that was catastrophic, the city would have to be able to maintain itself for a while.
We're clearly seeing that we don't have asset management. We're not able to fix our systems without begging for money.
Right.
And then we're having to, so I would agree, and people need to understand that we do have to have.
I mean, here we are having to pay $9.5 million for a new water system, and $6 million?
Yeah, because like Empire and all the other big utilities, they charge enough to replace those systems, Newmac, all of them, and that's never been our practice.
Right. Something that was undone for a long time, and I don't feel that it was intentional. I don't want, please don't think that. I just think it was an oversight, that it just can't continue.
I think a lot of people lack education in it. When I watched that video that Jim had sent on the wastewater, or not the wastewater, the water system, it was very eye-opening, and I think a lot of people don't see that. And so it's our job to educate and help people understand, and I don't think we've done a great, I personally have not done a great job of that. So that's something I look forward to doing.
I think my shortfall is I try to explain it when people are already upset. And that's not the time to do it, so. Yeah.
Yeah, this was, I feel like we all agree we need to be proactive on all different things.
Yeah. So here's the truth of it. If we do not pass a budget today, according to state law, we cannot spend any money until we pass a budget. There are changes, obviously, that I need to go in here and make, and I'm happy to do that today. We can vote at this point to pass the budget with the corrections, or we can wait until next week, but I'm on vacation next week, FYI. So my preference is that we pass this budget with corrections, and then if we need to make amendments further down, and we will, especially when we pass the $5, that stuff, we'll need to make those amendments then. But my preference is we pass the budget.
I'm concerned about some
Okay,
personnel issue,
okay,
pay increases.
okay.
We'll have to discuss that in order to.
Yeah.
I know, but I feel like that needs to be a closed session item.
Um,
Personal person. I mean,
okay.
It's personnel, correct? Are we
Right.
not supposed to
So
discuss that?
what we can do is amend the agenda. I believe we can amend the agenda to have a closed session if you want to do it now, or we can do it next week.
You guys,
I'm okay with it one person.
with everything that's already here?
Well, no, I mean, if you're wanting to discuss something and then come back,
Without discussing that employee, can we discuss the increase later as an amendment, or? I mean, because you don't have to.
Because if you're gonna approve an agenda that everybody's seeing and looking at, they're gonna think that everybody is gonna get that 4% across the board, and we're discussing that might not be the case.
So if we're talking about one individual employee, though, we certainly would need to go into closed session to do that. And I would encourage somebody to move to go into closed session. Let me get that.
In accordance to. Gosh, we should
Or are
have
you
that
all
in
okay
there.
with this?
well, no, if you have a concern, we
Let's
need to
discuss it,
address
Yes,
it, yeah.
as a team, we all, yeah.
Right,
That's,
why we're here.
Here you go, Lon.
Okay, so somebody needs to move to amend the agenda to include a closed session according to.
I make a motion that we go into closed session.
No, we have to.
Yeah, can't even say it.
I'll apologize.
I move that we amend the agenda to add a closed session after section 1 and make it section 1A or whatever. In accordance to, well, that.
Okay, so move to
Oh,
amend the agenda to include a closed session. And that's all I need from you for now. Okay. Okay, and Gabe's going to second that.
All those
So,
in favor? 4-0.
so the agenda is amended. We now have a closed session on the agenda. Does somebody want to move to go into closed session?
To move to go into closed session in accordance to RSMO 610.021 for personnel matters.
Bill's made that motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Doreen has seconded that. All those in favor?
Doreen Klaus,
Doreen Clark, yes.
Bill Cottrell,
Yes.
Gabe Carroll,
Yep.
Bobby White.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we are moving into closed session. No, they should-
Yeah.
At 11:01.
Why are they making me so confused?
It's so hard
I
sometimes.
think I do.
I have a massive headache today.
We have allergy medicine back there in my office.
I've taken my daily, I've taken Benadryl, I'm just, it's not,
Ibuprofen, okay?
yeah.
Oh, I've got everything. I've got eye drops for Gabe if he needs them.
Did you see my eye? It's all
Oh,
swollen.
yeah.
It's just, I don't know if that's closed solid.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Okay.
I guess.
I may not have any cold water, but there's some in a tank. I didn't know you brought all your little stickers with you.
open session.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Gabe to go back into open session and a second from Bobby. All those in favor? Oh, roll call.
Doreen Cox?
Yes.
Bill Cottrell?
Yes.
Dave Carroll?
Yes.
Bobby White?
Yes.
So we're going back into open session at 11:32. Oh, yeah. We had a closed session meeting, discussed personnel, and no votes were taken.
Now, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget with the corrections that were discussed previously, and with the also public knowledge that just because the budget does reflect a 4% increase, that does not mean that each city employee will be receiving a 4% increase. That will be discussion at a later date.
Second.
Okay. Doreen has made the motion to approve the budget with changes, and Bobby has seconded that. All those in favor? 4-0. The very last thing on our agenda was to discuss our grant applicants. Have you guys had enough time to look over that and make any decisions on who you would like to have do that?
Have you guys looked them over? I have my first two picks. The first one I'm looking at is Rebecca Mills. Rebecca, she said she would put in 6 to 7 hours a week, and she has got her master's.
Okay.
She works, I think she said she works the Children's Division and regularly writes court reports and legal documents. She will have in September her master's degree in organizational psychology.
Okay.
And
So that's your first pick.
that's, I think the reason I probably went with that was if she's got her master's, she definitely sticks with things. And the amount of time, I figured that you're going to pay for it, the more hours you can get. That was my first pick.
I have a question. Where does she live? Is she local?
I think she's local. I don't know anything about her other than what she put on here.
That's my concern. I would hope that we would have somebody local in this position that's my.
I've looked at, I look at people's qualifications and stuff. I was very impressed with her qualifications. The only thing I worry about is sometimes we have, sometimes we get overqualified when we have too much on our plate. So that would be my only concern about that. But I do love the fact that she is a dedicated person, obviously educated.
Right.
So with the master's, you have to write a lot of dissertations and stuff like that, and so I feel like she might be well-spoken, well-written. I do agree with you on that. There's ups and downs in all of it.
Oh, yeah. And my second one I liked was Ginger Perkins. Yeah, she has, she's willing to put in 8 to 9 hours a week. She's a published author. She works at the Foundry, and I know she assisted with the pop-up markets and stuff. I think she was an asset to them. And she does live just right here outside of Granby. We have several. I mean,
There were some really good ones.
there's some really good ones,
Do
yeah.
remember, we are gonna go ahead and offer that I think it was $75 for any additional person. So if there is somebody on this list that was, willing to do it for us, or if they would go on in and go ahead and get that, then we would have that information from them too, where we can
Yeah.
hit them up in the future.
Do you want to put these?
I would have them registered.
Okay.
Any others that you guys just really shine for you? And can't remember if I said it offhand. We could entertain sending 2 through if we really had a great, but we had to make a different,
I was
motion for it or
thinking it
whatever.
was around $465, wasn't it?
For the first one, yes, and
Yes.
then an additional 75 for
For
anybody
each,
else
yeah.
that wants to, go in with it.
And we've asked that you sign a contract, so do we have a contract built?
Nope.
Okay, we need to make sure that happens before we agree on anything, and they agree on the contract as well.
Right.
So, are you going to contact the two that were discussed?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for any other ideas, because if you have questions for these people, I can call them up like Rebecca. Is she local? I can call her up and ask those questions. Where do you live? Are you able to come in, visit with us at times?
Well, I feel like if there's 5 here, is that what right?
We have
5
5.
people?
5.
I feel like it would be courtesy to call each one of them and just explain, these are the ones we went for because of this other experience that they have, but we would still be really interested if you could do the training with the additional 75, whether you pay for it or the city might have the option to pay for that, just to, because they took the time and filled out your survey. And like,
Yeah,
Wendy is an
Wendy-
actual, she lives here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy
Ava
said
lives
she would
in-
pay for, I don't know if she, for 75.
Yeah.
The reason I picked out the 2 was just the more hours, get more bang for your buck there, if they're
I don't
willing to
think
put in more
we
time.
can all
No, I'm just saying, just let them know that they were not selected, but if they want to pay that 75,
Yeah.
that's still an option. So I think
Oh, yeah.
as courtesy, each person that took the time to fill out our survey should be contacted.
I believe that was an option on there too. If they were interested, if they're not picked, are they interested in paying for it?
And
for
I think there was
themselves?
only one that said yes on
Yeah.
that, and that
And
was,
so-
Wendy over.
Well, that was one of them.
She'd be very good too.
So that tells me that, when I look at points in my head, you got a little point thing system when you're thinking about this, that moves her a little further up on those points because she's even willing to go beyond to
Right.
pay for her own,
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to know where Rebecca lives, and then I think Ginger and Wendy and Rebecca are probably all 3 strong.
All 3 is very strong.
okay.
I would say, just see how many. Do we need to make a motion on this, or just keep
Yeah.
this within discussion?
No,
If
this.
there is one that we really want to send, we probably should make a motion because a couple of them said they wanted to go July 11th, and we won't be back in session.
That's what I was
before
getting
that.
ready to say, did one of these 3, can I see your thing again? Which one's of, I know Ginger said July.
I think she said
I
July.
think so, and then-
So did Rebecca.
Ginger and Rebecca both.
Ginger.
So yeah, if,
It is September,
September, okay.
and Rebecca is 11th also, so
Yeah.
Ginger and Rebecca both want July 11th.
So those are the ones yeah, we have to make a decision. That's why we went ahead and added it on here. Otherwise, we would end
Yeah,
up,
missing that opportunity.
it's a tough one. We can also, you can also do contingencies on it if you'd like, as far as, I know your concern is issue local. Probably should have put an address on those, hindsight is 2020. So we could call and, the stipulation could be if that person is local, they would be the best. Or if you just already know of somebody who's working in the community and you feel like that person is close enough already, we could just jump down there, visit with them quickly. And that would be a thing about Ginger is she is easy to get to. She's very easy to talk with, and she is in our community all the time. I don't know Wendy very well.
I think she'd be excellent. I don't think we'll go wrong with any of them, really. But no, Wendy, she's grew up around here.
So can I make a motion that we allow the mayor to take the suggestions from the council and contact these individuals and make a decision after conversations with them?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Doreen has made the motion to have the mayor go ahead, take comments into consideration, and make the final decision on who will be awarded the grant application class. And Bobby has seconded that. All those in favor? 4-0. That was the last thing I got, so I would.
Mickey, go ahead.
Motion, we close this session.
I'll second that.
Okay, Gabe has made the motion that we dismiss. Doreen has seconded that. All those in favor? 4-0. Okay, we are dismissed at 11:42.